I don't care. But yeah, the game is good. I really like the writing and I like the story. And I also like a lot of the characters, especially. But the game has huge issues with how it's gamified. Basically, everything about the game that is a game is bad. So that's a bit of a problem when you're making a video game. So it's a bit too loud for me too. But like the stats and all of that, it doesn't really. It's not meaningful enough to warrant existing at all. This should just be a linear story without stats. Really. It should just have been a point-and-click game. It should not have been turned into a wannabe RPG. Because none of it serves any real purpose, really. Because it's just annoying, all of it. And the fact that there's no real diverging plot lines or anything means that they serve no purpose. It just means that if you're playing it once with one build, you might get different passives proccing, and you might be getting things you haven't read before via shivers or inner empire or perception, etc. Those things are fine. I don't mind that necessarily. It kind of just adds flavor to the game and the playthrough. And that's fine, but I also think that if you only did that and you didn't have any rolls or anything, I would probably criticize it for having an elaborate skill system that barely did anything. So they would have to figure out how to expand it somehow if they want to have that. Again, I don't think that they should have it at all. I don't think the rolls should be a thing. The game should have just been a point-and-click game. Because I think this is the best point-and-click game ever made, probably. Most of them are not good. There's not a lot of competition, so it's like this game. Since this game strictly has no combat. Tides of Numenera is honestly a point-and-click game to some degree. Not really. Here it's... This is more of a point-and-click game, but it has so little interaction between items and stuff. That's something they could have done instead. Instead of bothering with all the stats, they could have just made, you know, more interactions with the world, with whatever you have. And yeah, like Tides of Numenera is also, it's kind of similar to this game when it comes to just that it's mainly narration based. But that's just an RPG, really. Otherwise, it's a dead genre, so you'd have to compare it to like Simon the Sorcerer and stuff from like almost 30 years ago, and those games are not good. They were good for their time because they were funny, but that's about it. Like, they're not good games. They're just funny, or they were funny. And I talked about it before on the stream, but like most point-and-click games just are just asinine, because you're kind of just clicking everything on the screen. You're just using all your items on everything on the screen, because there's no logic to any part of the progression or anything. So in that sense, I think a dialogue-driven point-and-click game is a lot better. Because you can just design it like an RPG instead, so it's about just talking to people instead of clicking on things. And the inventory, absolutely horrendous. Like it shouldn't be a thing at all. Because the items, they don't even do anything. They just move stats around, which means that the very existence of it, for most people, I will say, will force this feeling of, oh, I have to close this dialogue or load, so I can just find these items that I need to equip so that I have a higher chance of succeeding on this roll. That's mandatory anyway. So, and that's why it shouldn't even be a thing, because you have to succeed on this roll, you have to succeed on this or that, and it's just not fun or enjoyable. The thoughts, however, are more interesting than the stats or anything, but they wouldn't even need to give you stats. It was more interesting for the thoughts to be like something that was just like a, I don't know, like a mechanic to unlock parts of the game, or more backstory or lore, or help Harry remember things. The political aspects of this game are honestly shit. Like it sucks that they're in there. And because it's just not a fun approach to role playing, because there's like a correct way to play the game, and the correct way is serious and makes sense, but anything else is just deranged. So it's not that you're role playing, it's that you're failing to roleplay the correct choice. So it's like it's always that there are incorrect choices. Everything that's political in the game is an incorrect choice. And I don't know. Like, for us, in the beginning, it's like kind of okay. I kind of get what they're doing with it, because in the beginning, Harry doesn't know what the fuck is going on. Like, he barely even knows. He doesn't know that he's a police officer. The player doesn't know that he's a police officer until Klaus J says, "Oh, you're a police officer," and then you're like, okay. And before you even know that, like, you've already like hit on her or whatever, and then you go down and you're kind of stumbling through it, and then there it kind of makes sense that all of these like incorrect options blurt out or whatever. But why did it doesn't have to be political in that sense? However, the game does have political writing in a good way, because the writing is like it's written both sides as not necessarily being wrong, and it's literally just a natural political conflict, and it feels pretty normal. Even though it's very satirized. But even so, like, you can find things that are like correct. What the like the racist, for example, and he talks shit about Sealang or whatever it's called. Like, he's like untrustworthy and blah 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 blah. And then you go and talk to him, and like, yeah, he is a piece of shit. So it's not just ham-fisted political writing. Now that's why it is good writing. Because when you write a political character, if you just write it as a caricature, then you fail. Because you have to like understand that most people have some kind of logic behind what they're thinking, right? Some people way less so, and everybody's gonna think the same way about the other side, but you know. But you know, grounding what the characters think in reality somehow is just good writing. And I do think that they have a really good base for if they want to make a second game. They're probably gonna fuck that up. That's what developers always do. They're not gonna learn for anything from the issues here, because developers don't do that. They don't know what they're doing. So, but yeah, I just wanted to finish this game today, which we did. But like I said, it'll be a short stream. We'll end there. Oh, the music's good too. The music is actually really good. Yeah, we'll stop there. Tomorrow, undecided. Probably stream Tides of Numenera. Just because, in contrast to this skill system, I want to play Tides of Numenera, which is the only game that has a good skill check system for doing rolls against things like knowledge checks and that kind of stuff. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Until next time, thanks for hanging. Bye bye.